All right, guys, how is it going? So this is the first podcast I've done anyway. Leon here is a bit of a podcast expert, so we're just here shooting a bit of a podcast. We don't really know which way this is going to go, so if it's awful, apologies. But
it's getting deleted if it's awful. So.
I don't think it will be. Bear with us; it'll get better as we get warmed up. So, yeah, we don't really have much direction or structure as to how this is going to go. We're just going to freeball it. So, yeah. Let's get into it, sir. How have things been over the last couple of months?
It's been good.
Yeah, and for people that don't know, me and Leon, we actually grew up in the same estate. We come from the same little town called Ruairi, and we were best friends for a long, long time. We've known each other for probably 18 years.
That's crazy.
Long time. So things have changed over those 18 years, haven't they?
Yeah.
We've both lost a lot of hair too.
And got bigger.
Yeah, in all kind of directions.
Yeah.
So,
well, let's go into that. So, I mean, most of the people who've seen me on a podcast will know where I'm from, what I've done. But this is your first time, so you're going to take the stage here and say, where are you from? What have you got started in? Obviously, we're both from. Well, I don't think you're from Ruairi, are you? Would you say that you're from Ruairi?
No, I would tell people I'm from Newry.
Okay.
Friends, But yeah, so what you want to? We'll take it back to all the way to the school times, will we? So
yeah.
Well, growing up, we'll go way back here. So growing up, I always I played sports as a kid a lot. I played GAA, I played soccer, I played rugby for a time, but I was probably best and played most at soccer, and me and Leon played for the same teams for quite a bit, and I also played GAA at the same time. And then going into secondary school, I went to St. Coleman's. I got a lot less sporty in secondary school, a lot more into gaming, and watching YouTube and stuff. And so probably between the ages of 13 to 16, I didn't do too much exercise. But in and around that time then is where I started to watch the six-pack shortcuts, the Simeon Pandas, the Ulysses Juniors, and I started to see these rip guys come up. That was back in the OG.
What age would you have been then? Because I remember when I was 15. We should say as well, there was a cap where you'd moved away and we weren't friends really, but you'd moved away to Newry, out of the town. We weren't seeing each other as often, and then when we did start seeing each other again, the gym was now a thing, and I would have been about 15, 16.
Yeah, so I'm about 2 years older than you, Leon, aren't you? I'm 26. Yeah. You're
24.
Yeah, 24. So, I started getting into fitness at about 16, but it wasn't really the gym. What I first started doing was Insanity and the P90Xs and the home YouTube workouts, because I don't know, I either wasn't old enough or not interested in joining the gym yet. So I was very cardiovascularly fit, and that only lasted maybe 6 months before I started to train weights. So probably about 16 and a half, coming up on 17, I started to go to the gym with my uncles and then with my dad too, and that started the weightlifting arc. And then I think I was maybe a year or two into training, and you had maybe seen some of the things that I was doing, or you were sort of getting into your training.
Well, what's crazy is that despite us being completely separated, and when we did start talking again, or I think we met up to play football or something again, and then we went to the gym or something together, and we both somehow knew who Dorian Yates was and who Ronnie Coleman was. That just out of the blue. Yeah. That's pretty fucking weird.
Yeah, so most young kids these days getting into the gym, they know they're the Gymshark athletes and all these people, and
we weren't that interested in that.
We weren't really that. We always the hardcore, biggest, strongest, just most hardcore people, because I think me and you in general were kind of, if we do something, we do it all the way. We don't really half-ass it. I think we're both kind of intense
and it's a shame
people.
Really, because maybe if we went down the other path, we would have looked a lot prettier. It's not exactly the prettiest path to take. But to be fair, it was definitely what interested me most. I remember seeing Dorian Yates for the first time and thinking, that is absolutely incredible. I want that. Get me as many SARMs as possible.
Yeah. Well, I think that comes from, there's kind of two, when you talk about bodybuilding, there's two kind of thought trains. One is that bodybuilding's an art, and it's very much feely, and all like, you know,
It's a craft. The way you pose.
It's a craft,
It's an opportunity
and all
to
this.
display your physique.
And then the other kind of train of thought is that no, it's a science and it's analytical, and you count numbers and you track volume and you progress systematically. And I think that system resonates better with me and you, because
well, it's hard to say it's an art when you don't look artistic.
Yeah, and neither and you we're not the prettiest. Bodybuilding's been pretty harsh to us. Yeah, you probably don't believe we're 26 and 24. We're like 36 and 34.
Nobody thinks it.
Nobody believes it. But yeah, so that's why I think Dorian Yates appeals to me and you, because he's very science-based, evidence-based, and because a lot of these other bodybuilders, they go in and they maybe, if they're training chest, or they don't even know they're training chest, they just go in and do what they feel, what they want. Whereas me especially, and I think you would thrive on having a plan, a structure, and I think most people do, because then you have something where you can quantify your progress. Whereas if you know, last week you lifted 60 kilos for 10, this week you're going to try 60 for 11, and you know in black or white, yes or no, if you progressed or not. So I think that's why that hardcore systematic approach appealed to us from day one.
Yeah, but you gotta caveat that with the fact that we can talk all the sciences you want, but for the first 3 years of our training, there was no science involved. We thought if anyone had asked us, what do you do for training, we would have laughed in their face, like, what do I do for training? It's more than that. You know, I'm pushing myself to the limits.
Yeah.
And in reality, we were just putting the most weight on the bar that you possibly could do for the worst form you could possibly ever see. Slamming pre-workout at 7 p.m. at night.
As much caffeine as possible.
Yes, and then eating as much food as possible.
Yeah.
No regard.
Like I said, we do things either 100% or not at all.
Yeah.
And I don't think there was very much concern about being optimal. We were always trained hard and trained intense, but maybe not trained smart. And I think that's where things changed after we got a little bit older and started to learn a little bit more. We became a little bit wiser as to, you like should sleep more than 6 hours a night, and you probably shouldn't take 600 milligrams of caffeine at 7 p.m. and go and train and take illegal pre-workouts and stuff. You probably shouldn't do that. You know?
Yeah.
You should probably look after your recovery.
Or putting a scoop of Excelsior, a scoop of Atomic Bomb, and a scoop of something else and a Dragon Shot into one thing to take at 7 p.m. after you've had no food all day. And
the Bull Special.
Yes.
So for anyone who doesn't know, one of the first gyms me and Leon ever went to is called Bull's Gym.
Closed down now.
Yeah, closed down. A very hardcore gym in Uri, and like a very bodybuilding esque, and probably rife with gear abuse and stuff like that too. So a bit of a culture there for that. But there is where we had most of our training sessions, a lot of memories. But there used to be this Bull Special pre-workout concoction, and we had Excelsior, which if people don't know, it's an illegal pre-workout.
It's also like 60 quid.
Has amphetamines in it, and we used to take it, or like synthetic amphetamines, whatever that means, whether it's real meth or fake meth, I don't know, but it works. That with another shot of pre-workout, an Atomic Bomb, which is a super strong.
And Beal's pre-workout back in the day.
It's like 500 milligrams of caffeine, shot of that, and then one of the little TNT pre-workout shot things in on top. And that's at like 7 p.m. and then we go train.
And at least 2 grams of salt in that.
And then go do 20 sets of squats or legs or something brutal. And yeah, just train.
What's crazy though back then is you got injured, you hurt your shoulder, and then we didn't train chest anymore. Yeah. We just trained legs. We were doing, what was it, quads and calves and hams and glutes. And we were training it 4 times a week.
Yeah.
And even though I hadn't been injured or I had no reason not to be training push or pull, I was just doing legs as well.
Yeah, so for a time I actually injured, it was my elbow. So it was my bicep and forearm where it connects. It was like a little knot. And so for a time I couldn't train upper body for 6 months. Anytime I did, it really hurt. And so what we did basically is, I'm not going to take time off training. I'm just going to train legs 3 times a week instead. So that's where we built decent enough legs. Leon's legs are even better than mine. The man's got the best calves I've seen. So yeah.
And we should probably go into as well nutrition. I mean, like it's easy to say now that nutrition's super easy to understand, or you know, you can go anywhere online to see what the best diet is to follow, or at least to get a good understanding of what to do and what to take. Whereas I feel like back then, you know, it was really like, I remember at the time, all the information we were getting from like JP's forum, that was it. And maybe some YouTube videos of some of your favorite influencers, and all they're eating is mince and rice or chicken and rice, and that's the way.
Yeah, I feel
5 liters of water a day.
I feel like the evidence based and the facts have come an awful long way. I feel like it's way more accessible these days, and so even kids are 18, 19, 20. Some of them, the ones who pay attention, it's a lot easier to find out what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. Whereas for me and you, it was really only the JP forums and listening to the likes of Train by JP and those hardcore meatheads they're all evidence based, but they kind of separated some of the facts from fiction. Whereas these days, I think it's a lot easier.
Did you coach anyone back then? Like in the infancy of you first training, did you have any people under your wing? Apart from
Probably
me.
you. Yeah. You're like the first experiment.
Well, I remember the first training plan that I ever received from you was a piece of paper.
I can't even remember.
No, I've got a photo of it as
you
well.
have a photo of
yeah,
it.
still use it to this day. But anyway, it was a decent workout, but it was like 4 A4 pages, handwritten, what the sets were, how many sets to do, and I didn't even get the paper itself. I got photos of the paper that you wrote out for me. Yeah. I remember the first training plan I ever wrote out for someone was a Word document.
Yeah.
And then I sent them the Word document thinking that's fucking class.
Yeah.
Like they're going to fucking get ripped off that. And I also went into detail about like how you're meant to stretch and all these things and put images in it and everything. Ridiculous.
Did you charge for this plan?
No, I think I did it for free.
You did it for free. Okay. And was there a result at the end of this training program?
No, I don't even think they followed it.
No.
I wouldn't neither. If I got a Word document like that, I'd go through the roof. And I remember the first time I ever actually did pay for a coach. Back then I would have said I was super hardcore and I'll do anything it takes. And the first thing on my diet for breakfast was like 200 grams of Fire yogurt, and that was it. Just Fire yogurt, and I was eating it thinking this lifestyle isn't for me.
I remember
this tastes like clay.
I actually know what coach gave you that. I remember you telling me.
And it was like, it wasn't even like now we've got like OneFit or all these coaching platforms or even Google Sheets. What I got it on was like a iCloud note is what it was. So I got access to a shared note, and it just had my training plan written out there, and that was it. And it literally just said Fire yogurt, and I remember saying to the coach or whatever, this is fucking awful.
Yeah.
And they went, well, you said you could do anything, you'd eat whatever.
Yeah. I remember he's a pro. He give you that, isn't he?
Yep.
Yeah. We'll not call him out. But I remember you telling me about that. Yeah. So the coach, our knowledge has come an awful long way. So I think it's probably a good sort of leeway to get into how we both sort of got into coaching then, because we were both training together when we were, I was maybe 19, 20, you were maybe 18, I was maybe 21. And that's around the time I did start to get into PT. And so before I actually did, I had a couple of jobs leaving school that I think helped shape me before I get into personal training. So when I left school, I went to college to be an accountant.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I couldn't see you being an accountant.
Yeah. I figured I didn't really want to do it, but I was always sort of good with numbers and counting. So we just figured that you get paid well as an accountant, and I can do math in my head, so I must be a good accountant. And then plus your mum and dad tell you that's the kind of job you want to get. You want to go to university, you want to get a nice safe job, get a nice career. So even though I didn't really want to do that, I didn't really have any other ideas to what I would do. So I did that after I left school. I did it for a year, and most of my classes, and at the end of my first year exams, I think I had 10 exams, and I think 5 or 6 of them I didn't even go to because I was training chest and training arms. So that didn't really work out so well. So then I quit that. And I started to get into other jobs. I was like, this accountancy isn't for me. And the whole time I was training away, me and Leon were still training, still building our physiques. But I guess we never really considered coaching for a while.
Well, back then that wouldn't have been it wasn't as prevalent as it is now.
No.
Back then, the top coaches would be all the American coaches, and then there'd be a few in the UK.
Yeah,
but only the real big names, and you'd hear of a few guys locally, but they're all like 1-to-1 PTs.
Yeah, and especially on the online coaching wasn't really a thing. It was maybe in its infancy, like Phil Graham or something. But yeah, so after that, then I was a security guard for a time. I just looked for easy jobs where I could still train, eat my mince and rice, and go to the gym and be happy.
Well, I do remember you boasting about the job that you had at the time.
Yeah,
where you got to sit in your car and eat your mince and rice.
Yeah, and watch
for
Netflix.
a 12-hour shift. And eat Netflix. Watch Netflix and then go to the gym after, and that was like I'm living the lifestyle.
I've made it. So I was at this abandoned school, and the kids used to come and vandalize it. So my job was just to look big and scary and make sure the kids don't vandalize the school. So I just got to eat my mince and rice and watch my Netflix and protect the school. And then at the end of the day, go to the gym, smash a load of pre-workout and get a pump. So I did that for a time. And then eventually that job ended. Then I had I was always painting as well. My uncle was a painter, so a lot of times in my free time I was helping him out. And then I went to work on a construction site. And this was probably the hardest job I ever had. It was like as a labourer. And being, especially as a first year labourer, you get treated like the bitch.
How long did you stick at that?
Oh, I did that for like 6 months, but that was the worst and probably the lowest point ever, because, you know, you get up at 5 a.m, and you get treated like a bitch all day. You know, anything they need, sandwiches, biscuits, or anything. Go pick up this from the shop. Go get this, and then because you're the first year and you don't know too much, they take the piss out of you. They ask you for things like a long stand. Go get me a long stand. Yes. You know, they take the piss out of you. So that's when I probably felt my lowest. So after that, I really thought, like, fuck, I need to get a job here that I'm actually excited to go to. And the whole time people had been sort of saying to me or whatever, would you not do PT? And then a couple of friends who were getting into the gym. And I guess that's when I kind of made the move and I said, fuck it. So I started PTing a few people.
I suppose the interesting thing for both me and you is that neither of us went down the traditional path. Like, you know, get your A levels, get university sorted, get a degree, maybe a master's, go and get yourself a nice job. And that's you sorted, work your way up the proper ladder. And that's the traditional route. Whereas at the time that both me and you are making these decisions to become a coach, all of our mates that we would have went to school with are all in first year uni, second year uni.
Yeah, everyone, pretty much like 90%, maybe 95% of my year went to uni, and I didn't. And I went to college, so it's not quite uni. It's like level down, let's say, easier. Because I could still I could still be at home and train. And part of the reason why I didn't want to go to uni is I didn't want to get into partying culture and drinking. And then also I didn't want to have shit tons of debt either.
Yeah.
So uni I just never felt was like for me. There was people kind of looked down on you for a period of time for not going. They're like, who's this loser?
Yeah, but this is the problem though, because I remember feeling the exact same way. I used to feel like, you know, fuck, I've made a mistake here. You know, I should be doing something. I'm better than this. I'm smarter than this.
Yeah.
And look at me, no job, no prospects, nowhere to go. You know, then you start to really question what kind of choices have you made up to now? But then again, like when you think back to it now, what's that, like 4 or 5 years ago, at least, maybe even 6 years?
At least, yeah, it's more.
And, you know, if I was to compare myself now to then, it's like two different humans completely.
Yeah, things have changed a lot over the last couple of years. But yeah, I got that too, where, you know, and I think as a young man, especially, like there's a lot of pressure on you to have your shit sorted and know what you want to do. People are always asking, what job are you going to do? What are you going to do with your life? And I think it takes some people longer to figure out. It certainly took me a while to figure out what I wanted to do. And it wasn't until I did jobs that I hated and made me felt my lowest and made me felt my most miserable. It wasn't until I'd done that I realized, okay, so this is what I don't want to do. I don't want to have a 9 to 5. I don't want to get treated like a bitch. I don't want to do a job I hate. I don't want to have someone to tell me that you need to be here and leave at this time and do this. I wanted to be my own boss and do a job that I woke up every day and was excited to do, and where I could impact people's lives. And fitness was my favorite thing to do. And then also mentoring, coaching, helping other people is one of my other passions. So putting those things together, PTing and coaching, was a perfect combo, you know, so.
And it would have been PTing that you got started in?
Yeah, so I was PTing first.
How did that actually start off though? What got you in the door there? Obviously, you would have had to do a PT course or some shit.
Yeah, so you get a PT course done and gets you qualified. That just gives you your insurance and basically gives you basic knowledge. But like we spoke about this whole time from when I was 15, 16, I was watching YouTube videos and six-pack shortcuts, all the influencers. So
best information ever.
Well, I like to think I like to see the facts, and like I said, we see bodybuilding or fitness from more of an analytical point of view as opposed to an art. So I was like, why is this the best bicep exercise? Why does this chest exercise work? Why do you diet this way? Not like because Tom says so or whatever. I like to see the facts. So when I got into PT and I had a pretty good knowledge of training and what works, what doesn't, diet wise, what works, what doesn't. And then I spoke about my injury. Like when I injured my elbow and couldn't train upper body for 6 months, that sent me down another rabbit hole of, okay, why am I injured? Was it too much volume? Was I doing the wrong movements? Was I training too hard, lifting too heavy? Was I not taking supplements? I went down a whole route. There was a couple of times I was eating a whole pineapple a day because pineapples are good for inflammation. And I thought, okay, my elbow's inflamed. I need to eat pineapples. Then I started putting turmeric in all my meals because turmeric's anti-inflammatories too. So I went down loads of rabbit holes, and it's from making all these mistakes early on with training, with diet, with just general lifestyle. It's making those mistakes that you learn, and that, I don't know, maybe fast-tracked my progress. So I made loads of mistakes early on, so I knew what worked and what didn't. So when it comes to training, I already knew half the shit out there was bullshit, and I knew what worked and what didn't. So it just made it easier to write programs and get results from day one. You know, and when I started the PTing, I had a couple of friends, like yourself and a couple of other people who seen the sort of results I was getting, and they wanted to get into fitness and lose a bit of weight. So it wasn't long. It was maybe 6 months after I started PTing that I had like a full maybe 12 to 15 PT
And then when
clients.
COVID hit, it kind of became a perfect opportunity to turn it into an online thing as well.
Yeah, so when COVID hit, it was, what was COVID, 2021?
2020.
Right, 2020. So I started PTing maybe like 6 to 8 months before COVID, just when I started my journey as on the floor gym PT, maybe 6 months, 10 months, something like that. And I'd literally just got a full book of clients booked out. Things were going really, really well. And then next thing, COVID hit and Boris Johnson was locking us down. So at that point, it's like, right, okay, gyms are closed. So now I've got no income. And then I wasn't getting no relief or anything from the government either. I wasn't getting no money for it. So it was either, right, okay, do I now go get like another job, or do I just accept that I have no income? And so that was kind of my back up against the wall. And that's when I decided to pursue this online coaching and go for it. And so most of my in-person PT clients transitioned them to online in the meantime, and then built up some more clients and just really went like 100 miles an hour down this route trying to grow the online side of things. And that was kind of the perfect storm, the perfect mix to push me in that direction.
Yeah, and definitely with you doing that and other people seeing you, including me, like the only reason that I got into coaching was because of you.
Yeah.
Because you said I would be good at it.
Yeah.
That's what made me want to do it, because you said I would be good at it. So I thought, yeah, probably.
Yeah, and you have been good at it, and you've made it it was a full-time, a good job for yourself for a long time, you know.
So, I mean, it's interesting that, but like obviously from our perspective, we've been highly interested in bodybuilding since before we were coaches, and even leading into that, we've obviously prioritized our education and learning as much as we can. And because we're so heavily invested in the industry, and I don't mean heavily invested as in we've got something in it, but I mean, we watch everything, we consume everything. There's people we like, there's people we dislike, there's people that we will listen to, and there's people we cannot listen to.
Well, we call them out.
You can if you want, but what I'm getting at is that the path for most people who are coaches now is not exactly the same. And I'm not saying the way that we did it is the normal route. A lot of people go down university, get their, you know, they get some kind of sports degree, and they realize that's useless for whatever the fuck they want to use it for. And then they become an online coach and they start to apply some real knowledge. But I would say most coaches that I see start up are people who've been a client for like a few weeks. Yeah. And because they see how it is laid out fairly simply, you know, follow this, listen to me, you're going to get shredded, take XYZ, that's going to get you extra shredded, done. And they think, fuck, this is easy. I'm going to go do that. And because online coaching, for those that don't know, you don't need no qualifications to do it. I mean, anyone can do it. There's no regulations, there's no controls in place to prevent someone from giving shitty advice, apart from getting called out by some other people online. But what do you think about that? Like, obviously, there's a lot of people nowadays who are coaches that probably shouldn't be coaches.
Yeah, without a doubt. So one of the biggest problems with the coaching industry is that there is like a zero barrier to entry. So your mum tomorrow could announce herself as an online coach, and people could start buying programs for her now. So the problem with that is it means there's going to be a lot of coaches. And people might think that that's bad, but I don't necessarily think it is, because I think the cream always rises to the top anyway. So I think the best coaches are going to stand out. And I kind of think it's a little bit on the client to do a little bit of research before you pick the coach. Like a couple of things you can use to decide, is this a good coach? Like number one, it's like, what sort of results are they getting with the clients they work with? You know, are they getting good results, right? That's like probably number one most important thing is if this person, even if they haven't had a university education like ourselves, like in sports science, I still get pretty good damn results, you know. And then I would look at the shape they're in as well, that like what standard do they hold themselves to? Are they, you know, have they walked the walk? Like if they're prepping you for a photo shoot, have they done a photo shoot? Have they got as lean as what they're telling you? Have they built a significant amount of muscle mass if that's what you're after? Have they ran a marathon if they're coaching you for a marathon? You know, I would look at that. And then I would look at like the general content and stuff they put out too. Like are they still practicing what they preach to these days? Are they educating themselves further? Because there's a hell of a lot more to fitness than just doing your 12-week PT course. Like I've done numerous courses, done J3
Yeah, but that
University.
12-week PT course is the worst course you can do.
It's the worst course. And like to be a doctor you need to study for 7 years, be a lawyer you need to study for years, all these other jobs you need to study for years, and then there's further learning after. A lot of jobs these days too, even corporate, there's further learning every 6 months, 12 months when something new comes out, some new information comes out, technology advances. So a lot of coaches just think it's good enough to just do your 12-week PT course and then that's it. But really, you're doing a disservice to your clients if you're not always educating yourself further, and you're doing a disservice to your own physique too, because you're not getting the result you could be getting yourself, and then you're not educating or getting your clients the result that they're capable of if you don't know as much as you should as well. And I feel like you're going to get overtaken by other coaches who are pursuing that further education. So I feel like as a coach, that's like minimum. You need that 12-week course needs to be done, but then you need to be constantly pursuing further education too. And educating yourself, you know, with more nutrition, more in training. And then in 6 months, something else comes out, you know, some new form of training, some new study. This works, that doesn't work as well as this new method, etc. You know, I think the coaching industry has changed a lot. And I think a lot of people are annoyed at the fact that there's so many coaches these days. It seems like everyone and their mum is a coach. But like I said, I feel like the best will always rise to the top. And you as a client, you get to choose who you want as a coach. So if you have any suspicion that this person doesn't have a clue what they're talking about, you don't have to pay them. You can go to someone else. Go to someone who's getting results consistently.
Yeah.
Like me.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, with coaching in general though, do you think that it should be regulated, or there should be some kind of like all fits one kind of like training that everyone should go through? Because it's not just the knowledge aspect, it's also how they conduct themselves, how they treat their clients, what kind of respect they give to their clients, and how they go about getting new clients.
Yeah. I don't know how you could bring it in, but yeah, I think it probably would be good, yeah, because it would only raise the standard, I suppose. The biggest problem is I feel like there's just too many people giving out information that maybe aren't qualified to give out information. I don't mind if people are coaches and they're maybe not the smartest, but then when they're posting like reels or TikToks about how to do this and how to do that, and they don't have a clue what they're talking about.
But the thing is, everyone's saying the same things.
Yeah. Or like the nutrition's probably the worst, right? Because there's a million ways to train, and there's 100 different ways to skin a cat, you know. So you could train high volume and it'll work. You can train low volume, it'll work. You can do 4 sets of something and it'll work. You can leave reps in reserve. You can train all the way to failure. There's so many different things you can do.
But the problem with that is that people are willing to die on the hill that this is the only way.
Yeah. Well,
but then again, with coaching, it's hard to set yourself apart because there is so many ways to get lean. I mean, if I knew nothing about coaching and I just asked you to stop eating, you're going to get shredded.
Yeah.
You're not going to look very good. You're going to feel awful in 12 weeks' time, and you might hate me, or you might end up very unwell, but you're going to get shredded. So
yeah. I feel like the nutrition aspect though is, I feel like the coaches should if they're giving people meal plans or macros, they should be doing some sort of nutrition course and some nutrition standard, because the nutrition aspect's the worst. Because I see one person will say eat eggs, they're the best, they're going to boost your testosterone. Then the next video after that says eggs are horrible, they're going to give you cholesterol and you're going to die of cancer. Then the next video is like, don't have Monster Energy Ultra drinks, they're terrible. Next one says, don't worry about Monster, they're fine, they don't cause cancer. It's like it's so many opposite opposing views, whatever, can't say that word. And the problem is most of these people are like, a lot of them are shredded and in good shape, so it looks like they know what they're talking about. And that's probably what makes the coaching industry so confusing too, is if I just take my top off and I'm shredded with a 6-pack, I can.
Yeah, but that's how it's 6 minute abs is.
Yeah, but I can promote my workout program or my diet, and people are going to take my word for it because I'm in good shape. And I feel like maybe that way a bit of regulation or some kind of qualifications would be good to further separate the people who really know what they're talking about versus the people who are just in good shape. You know, because a lot of people in good shape who still, just because you're in great shape yourself doesn't mean you can get your clients or XYZ person in great shape. There's a difference, you know, difference.
Well, anyway, we should probably move on to some topics that everyone likes to think about.
Enough waffling about coaching. Nobody wants
Let's talk
to
about
hear.
the fun stuff now.
Yeah, let's give me some juicy ones. Let's cause
Juice?
controversy.
Well, the elephant in the room is, how natty are you?
How natty am I? Well, these days I'm a lot more natty than what I used to be.
Yeah.
So on the scale, you know, and for anyone who doesn't know what natty just means natural. So this mic, stay still over there. Hold on, trying to get my mic to stay. Anyway, it's not going to stay. So, yeah, for anyone who doesn't know what natty means, are you natural? Do you take performance enhancers? And the answer is yes, I have taken performance enhancers in the past. Probably for the last 2.5, 3 years, I've taken PEDs. Not going to get into exactly which ones and what amounts and stuff, because I feel like that's another problem with the industry, and that's why I don't really like to talk about it too much, because I feel like some young kid who's 18 is going to listen to this and say, oh, he does this. If I do that, I'm going to look like him. Or Larry Wheels takes this. If I do what Larry Wheels does, I'm going to look and be as strong as Larry Wheels. And it's just not the case. There's so many other things that go into it in years and years of time. So yes, I have taken PEDs in the past, but as of now, my goals have changed completely, and I no longer am looking to be a big, strong freak anymore. We're a bit more health inclined these days.
As much as you can be right now.
Yeah.
To be fair, though, I mean, you've lived that lifestyle to the max that it could be. You know, living like a monk, doing what you're meant to be doing to get as big as you possibly can. You know, getting to bed early, looking after your nutrition, looking after your health, getting your bloods done. Everything that someone who is enhanced should be doing is what you've been doing. But the downside to all of that is the fact that, one, it costs a lot of money. Not the drugs itself, but to look after yourself while you're on them is way more expensive. And also the fact of, you know, how much are you willing to sacrifice for an extra kilo of muscle this year?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, well, we'll talk about it. So what most people don't understand is, and I would vouch for this, that I would say bodybuilding is definitely the hardest sport out there. And it's definitely the most all-consuming, time-wise, money-wise, it's incredibly expensive. But like, for my bodybuilding show and like the off-season before, to grow muscle, you need to be in a surplus. And when you're taking a bodybuilding show seriously and really trying to grow your physique to the, like, you're trying to tick every box and get 100% out of it. Obviously, it involves drugs, which is, you know, a health side of, you know, you're going to get health side effects. No matter how healthy you try to be, you're going to get some health consequences, right? When you're taking PEDs, like, so you're losing years off your life. You've got the money aspect as well. You've got like the sacrifices where if you really take it serious, you can't go out on a Saturday night. Maybe can't veer off your meal plan. You have to be a little bit stricter. You know, you have to say no to certain events depending on how seriously you took it. And I took things very seriously, especially as it transitioned out of that bulk and got into my 5-month diet for my show. For 5 months, I didn't miss a single cardio session. I did hours of cardio per week. You know, we had numerous blood tests. You have, you know, a strict diet where you can't, you know, on a Saturday, you can't go and have whatever meal you want. You have to stick to your own diet plan. You can't go meet people for 5 months straight. I was in bed 9 o'clock, up at 5 o'clock. I gave up life, pretty much all social aspects, all, you know, kind of fun.
And we should say as well that you don't have to do this. Like,
No.
You don't have to, but I mean, when you do want, like, realistically, if you want to achieve 100% of what you're capable of, that is what it's going to take.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to have to completely consume yourself with this. And the thing about bodybuilding isn't like, you know, it isn't like other sports where
you can take time off.
Yeah, it's not like you can do your 3 training sessions a week and that's you know, you've worked on your skills.
And then take 6 months off.
Yeah, it doesn't work like that. I mean, if you take any time off, that's you going backwards, and every single part of your day counts, and everything that you consume and put in your body has an effect on how you look and where you're going to go with your physique. And, you know, some weeks where you're feeling less motivated if you're not putting as much energy into your training, or, you know, you're getting a bit more relaxed on your diet, or your sleep's gone to shit. You know, from a bodybuilding perspective, for someone who's seeking 100% out of every single day, it's not productive. And when you're doing a prep and you're going to go and compete against other guys who are going to turn up on the ball, you don't want to be that guy who turns up to a show who's, you know, hanging out his arse, which happens more than people think.
Or out of shape.
Completely out of shape, but still turn up because, you know, paid for the tan. So,
like, remember the dude we seen
there was a dude at the show that Ruairi competed at who I don't even think he was included in the photos of the show.
He had another 10 kilos to lose, easy.
But he did believe that he was within what did he say? He think he
did he not say he was going through a divorce or something?
Yes,
was that his excuse?
The kids were getting taken off him, and
Jesus.
He was full of gear. And he also said that he was like, maybe, you know, he had another 5%.
He's 40 plus as well.
He had another 5% in him to lose, maybe a couple more weeks, and he'd be ready for the show. And realistically, if he was being coached by someone, the coach would be sitting him down for a real talk. Like, you're not allowed to step on that stage.
Yeah, it just looks like he's finished his bulking phase, to be honest. But that's the thing with bodybuilding. It's like, especially if you want to do a show, it's so all encompassing. You can't do anything. You can't miss meals. You can't miss cardio. You can't miss training. And then you have to get to the point where it's unhealthy lean, where other things start to sacrifice. Whether you're in a relationship, it's going to drag on that. You know, maybe see your family, your mum and your dad. You're not as fun to be around. Like,
and also bodybuilding is a well understood sport. So
yeah, a lot of people don't understand it as well. They think it's very self-centered, and you become selfish doing it, which you have to be selfish if you want to be good at it. If you need it, because oh no, I can't go meet you there in 3 hours because I got to get my meal in and I got to prep my meals for the next day.
Or you want to go out this weekend? Well, that's going to ruin my whole weekend.
Yeah,
you know?
like no, I can't go out on Saturday because I got to get up early on Sunday and train legs, and I'm sorry, I can't come to your birthday on Friday night because I got a hardcore training session the next day.
And two, I don't want to.
Yeah,
it is a shitty thing to say, right? But I mean, it doesn't sound great when you say something like that, but when you're so invested in the amount of time and energy you've put into something, like imagine if you'd spent 6 years building your physique, and a weekend of overeating can make you look like shit for the next couple of weeks. You know, it has a big sway on how you feel about doing certain things.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's like I said, it's very all encompassing, and it's sometimes you can neglect other areas of your life and things can suffer, and sometimes you get so tunnel visioned. I know I did, where like you just other aspects of your life can suffer. You know, maybe it's your business, maybe you're 2 weeks out from a show and you don't want to do your job. You don't want to, like, whether you're a coach or whether you're working like in an office, whatever. When you're 2 weeks out and your energy is in the bin, and you know you haven't been in the mood to have sex in about 8 weeks because your sex drive's in the bin, or you feel horrible because you're that lean, your feet hurt from walking. And then also
loads. Because you're so lean, you think you're so small instead of feeling big.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like bodybuilding's a bit of a mind fuck too, because you are leaner than probably 99.9% of people on the planet, and you're leaner than all your friends, and they look at you and tell you you're shredded and you look great, and you look at yourself.
Yeah, your mum and dad say you look ill.
All you see is another 5 kilos that needs to come off, and you see the imperfections in your biceps. This left bicep's not as peaky as the right one. I need to go work on that. And other people are looking at you saying, like, you look like a fucking fitness model, but it can really warp your perception of your own body and standards that you sort of need to live up to. And some people get lost in that, I think.
Well, I think for those who follow bodybuilding fairly closely or live even part of the lifestyle, all of the jokes and all of the memes are about how fucking awful it is. Like, and I think when you get into bodybuilding or you get into this kind of thing, you're watching some dude who looks fucking awesome in a gym, where he's in the gym for an hour and a half, and you're not seeing the other 22 and a half hours of his day where, you know, the dude's sitting on the toilet for at least an hour, you know, all the injections that guy's probably doing, getting his bloods done, eating loads of food, family falling out with him, you know.
Missing family events, sacrificing other things.
Yeah, and then never placing in a show. And to be honest, like, another thing that people don't realize when they see all these fitness influencers and people who work for Gymshark or they are winning bodybuilding shows, that is not common. Like, that is the cream of the crop. Yeah. And the majority of people who do bodybuilding obviously do it for the love of the sport, but they will never make it anywhere. And that's just the reality.
Yeah, well, that sums up my kind of experience on my show. So obviously I still love bodybuilding, and I love more so the process and the discipline of it, and the life lessons it teaches you. I think it teaches you a lot, an awful lot. But doing my show and not placing as well as I wanted to was a blessing in disguise. It hurt at the time, and it was a big ego hit, but it's a blessing in disguise because, number one, I never wanted a career in bodybuilding anyway. I'm not good enough. I don't have the genetics to pursue a career there. But I feel like if I had have won or got any encouragement, I just would have went further down that route and lost myself a little bit more. And whereas not doing so well, I took a step back, realized that I don't really want to pursue that route anyway and get any bigger, stronger. It's not going to benefit my health. It's not going to benefit my business. It's not going to benefit my relationships. It's just going to take away from it and from life. So not doing so well was a bit of an eye opener and helped me sort of recenter and sort of realign new goals and the way I want to move forward. So I think a lot what you see on social media, you see the highlight, you see the best bodybuilders, you see the Chris Bumsteads, the Mr. Olympias, and you think that if you take gear or if you go to the gym, you're going to look as good as that. And those people with 1 million followers and big fitness pages, that's the 0.1% of genetics and fitness people. Most people, unfortunately, are just never going to look that good, including ourselves as hard as
shite
we
genetics.
try. Yeah, and as you can blast as much gear and stuff as you want. The reality is you're capped by your genetics, how good you'll ever look. It's like
and some guy might do a massive blast, no idea with what gear is. His hair is perfectly fine, skin's beautiful, and you do the most bang average cycle ever, and you're coming out the ears with fucking side effects. So
that's the thing.
It really is a roll of the dice.
But that also applies to training too. So some people weight train for 12 months and they have a fantastic physique and it looks like they could be on the cover of a fitness magazine. Some people train for 5 years and they still look average. It's people respond differently. So that's why that's part of why I think it's good to have a coach too, because a coach can give you realistic expectations of your physique and where you can take it, and also you don't need to do your favorite influencer's chest workout because you don't need 35 sets of bench press or 35 sets of whatever. Just because he's got elite genetics and gets away with it and progresses doesn't mean you need that, So that's where I think it's good to have someone with a bit more knowledge in your corner to help.
We'd have to play devil's advocate with that though, because the number one argument to that is, well, this guy looks unreal and you look nothing like him and you're saying you're smarter than him. And that's always the comparison, just because their physique is phenomenal and ours is not that. Which is it is a fair point, absolutely. But it's not like, it's like an actual specimen. This person could have used a local council gym for their whole life, and they would have looked absolutely unreal. You could be in the best gyms in the world, being coached by the best coaches in the world, following the best advice, and you're not going to get there. It's guaranteed.
Yeah. Well,
but that is what someone like this would say.
Yeah. Well, there's freaks out there that just look at weights and grow and have.
Yeah.
You'll see homeless people on the street that have ripped six packs and actually have decent physiques, and
we should probably say it like, we've known this for a long time. I've known ever since I got into bodybuilding, it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
You can easily compare yourself to the top bodybuilding people ever and look at them at the age that you were at, and then you'll have a pretty good understanding that, fuck, he was natty still then.
You go and search like Ronnie Coleman natural or Chris Bumstead natural.
Or Ronnie Coleman at 14 years old. Like it's not happening. So
and you'll get an eye opener real quick as to how low down the tier your genetics are.
And also the thing that most people need to realize is that our mindset never really changed on that. Even though we both knew it wasn't going to go anywhere or we weren't going to achieve it, we both loved the idea of the sport so much, and we loved the sport that we wanted to do it anyway. When it probably wasn't, it isn't the best thing, but I wouldn't change it. I thoroughly enjoyed blasting and getting big and getting strong. There's no doubt about it.
It's an ego boost to walk into a gym and feel like the biggest and strongest and feel like the man. It's an ego boost, and let's call it getting lost in the sauce. I feel like a lot of men these days, whether they're taking PEDs or taking gear, they get lost in the sauce, and because you have to take breaks. You can't always be the biggest and strongest. You can't always be operating at 110%. You have to take down periods, right, with your gear, with your training, with your intensity, with everything. So a lot of people, when it comes to that, and what the whole reason they've had their big confidence boost and what makes them feel like the man is taking that gear. And when that's taken away and their confidence is in tatters, sometimes that can lead to a pretty bad spiral downhill, so don't get lost in the sauce.
Anyway, we're probably not really selling the sport here, so
That's enough bodybuilding talk, lad. Let's talk other things. What about the life in general? What do we have that's not bodybuilding?
well,
Or the current state of affairs and
well, we should probably cover then just influencers in general in the fitness space. How do you see the fitness space at the minute compared to when you would have came into it?
There's it's a lot more competitive these days, especially with content creation. I feel like 3 or 4 years ago it was way easier to stand out, make good content that would go viral or get more views. Whereas these days, there's people that they spend hours editing a single video and getting the perfect captions, the perfect lighting, the perfect editing. They're in nice studios like this shooting professional videos. So it's hard to make it these days unless you're ticking all those boxes with your content creation. You're putting effort in there. You've got a good physique. You're educating yourself. You're building good relationships, with clients and an online presence. I feel like you need all those aspects to make it in the fitness industry these days. You need everything. Whereas back in the day, you just had to have a half good physique, have a six pack, and and that was enough to stand out. These days, you need it all. You need to be good shape, smart, have your shit together, have a good page, good content. You need all that to really stand out these days, I think. So it's only getting more competitive, but like I said, I think that just forces the best coaches to really rise to the top.
And do you think that there's enough variation between, we're still pretty much covering coaching, but would you say that there's enough variation between coaches? Do you think everyone's just following the same train in a lot of regards? Or is there really pillars in the industry that are head and shoulders above everyone else in the way that they're doing things?
A lot of content is similar. And so there is only,
it's not like there's new things coming out about fitness every week.
Yeah, it's not like there's a new bicep curl coming out next week that nobody's seen before. A lot of training programs are going to be similar-esque. It's just, there's going to be small nuances in, one coach might have you do 8 weeks and you must take a deload, and the next one's like, no, you don't need a deload at all. You just regulate your volume. And another coach will say you need train to failure every set, and some coaches says, no, that's too much. You need train to failure only every second set. And some coaches, there's all different ideas and thought processes, but the reality is, it most of it works. If they're getting results, most of it works.
Pretty much everything works.
I think probably the most important thing, and especially if you're choosing a coach, is choose a training style that you enjoy. So me and you like training to failure, training hardcore. So a coach that maybe programs reps in reserve and fluff sets, that's not the best approach for us. So you need a training system you enjoy, but also a person you gel with too. That's a big thing. So I think that's what maybe...
I think that's the biggest thing.
Biggest thing. So I think that's what maybe separates the coaches who are doing the best, because they have the best relationships with their clients and they really pay particular attention to that. And that human relation is probably what separates the best coaches and what makes them stand out.
Like coaching in general, like we've said before, there's 100 ways to skin a cat. When you're coaching, I could get you 100 coaches in this room, and if you did what they said, realistically, 90% of them are going to get you to the place that you want it to be in 12 weeks' time. But the big differentiating factor is, how well do you get on with them? Mm-hmm. Do they feel like a friend and a coach? Do they feel like someone that you can rely on to give you honesty when you need it and when you don't? And coaching is a lot more than just, here's a diet plan, here's a training plan, get to work, boy. That's it.
Coaching's a hell of a lot more than that, and I would argue that the result you'll get and your enjoyment probably more so massively depends on your relationship with a coach. So I know that whenever I've gelled with coaches I've had in the past or clients that I gel with more, they'll trust my word and follow the plan a lot more. Like when they look up to you and you tell them to do something, they're going to do it to a lot higher level than if they don't really respect the person's opinion or they don't gel with the coach as much. So I would argue that having a coach that you respect and get along with, when they tell you to do something, I feel like you're going to do it to a higher standard than maybe a coach you don't gel with. Even if it's the same plan on paper, you just put more effort into it. You want to please that person. You want them to at the check and be like, "Fuck, that was a good week."
Yeah.
You know, you want to get their respect. So
most people aren't interested in bodybuilding. Most people aren't interested in going down that path. Most people don't want to get so massive. For the majority of people, it is just a fat loss phase. And for a client that's not interested in any of that shit or doesn't even care if it's reps in reserve or not, it is all about the person. You know, they want a friend that they can depend on to know everything that needs to happen and understand the changes in their body and be able to push them when they can't push themselves. They need an authoritarian in their life that can tell them what to do, you know?
Yeah, it's they want that accountability, you know.
But they don't want to prick.
No. So, but you do. Sometimes people need a bit of tough love. Sometimes now there's a balance. Can't be a dick, but sometimes people need, because that's why they're employing you at the end of the day, because they know that they're maybe prone to slipping up or they're not. Because if they were 1,000% on their shit, they wouldn't have a coach anyway. So sometimes you have to walk that line between being a friend and then saying like, "Nah, how long, John? You're fucking slacking this week. Get your shit together." So sometimes you have to, you know, you have to put your foot down and call people out, or, you know, let them know the truth whenever they're not following things. And I think your clients respect you a lot more for that too. But yeah, I forget what that question actually was. What you were saying.
Well, I think we should probably cover off.
Why don't we talk about the current, because this is something I think is very relevant. I think the current pressures of young men as well to not only look a certain way, the pressures of the fitness industry, but to be successful. You know, me and you are both young men, maybe don't look so young anymore. I feel like today there's a lot of pressure on young men in general to have their shit together, to be successful. Every person you see on Instagram is in Dubai having a great time, earning thousands per month, you know, doing really well, has huge social media, is super happy all the time. But I think what most people only show is maybe the highlights. And I think, I feel like there's a lot of pressure on young men to perform at a certain level and have their shit together by a certain age. This day and age, would you agree?
I do think that, but, you know, the thing that's crazy is that, like, where we're from in general is not exactly a place where you can thrive per se, or it's not exactly a place where you're brought up to think, you know, you can do anything. It's more like you need to get a sound job security, and you need to save as much money as possible and get a house. That's the advice that you get.
Traditional path.
Yes, exactly. The traditional path. Whereas, you know, if everyone has friends that were raised differently and they were told you can do anything. And I'm not saying that has like a huge impact, but obviously from where we're from, it's not very common that someone does break that mold. Or, you know, most self-employed people in the area that we're from are trades, and most tradies make loads of good money, but you know, they don't want to do any more than that. You know, they're happy with their slice of life. And I wouldn't say that what we're doing is any different than trying to carve your own slice of life, but obviously it's something that you don't want to do it forever. Like, I wouldn't say coaching is something that you're going to want to do till you're 75. You know, you're not going to be 75 and trying to coach some 22-year-old on how to get ripped.
ChatGPT is going to be coaching.
Yeah, by then probably.
ChatGPT 10.
But
I agree completely. Where we're from, and just in general, I think Northern Ireland and the UK is a very like small town mentality, where not that people directly discourage you, but it's not as encouraging to put yourself out there, to talk on social media, to walk down the street with a camera recording yourself, or to make videos that are maybe controversial or dramatic. It's not as encouraging as the likes of like America, where you're told from a young age you can be whatever you want. Kids are told you can be president, you can be an athlete, you can be a superstar, you can go be a celebrity. Where we're from, it's very like, just don't, you know, it's called like tall poppy syndrome, where like the tall poppy in the field sticks out. You know, people don't like to see you doing too much better than them. And so if you put yourself out there too much or make too much noise, people like to shoot you down. And I feel like it's not a very encouraging place. So I feel like one of the best things, and you've done it, is you moved away as well. So you got the fuck out of Rough Island a long time ago. You know, and I'm still pretty close to it, but that makes me think about moving to Dubai and the likes of those places a lot more.
well, it's a different mindset. It's I mean, you can be the biggest guy in your gym and that's it. You know, you're a big fish in a small pond. But if you surround yourself with a bunch of people who are super successful, you're gonna be lifted up in some ways. I'm not saying it's a guaranteed route to success, but being constantly surrounded by people who constantly do more than you, or constantly trying to be better or do more in their life and achieve more, and you know, there's so much advice and so much knowledge that is shared in those kind of circles that isn't something that you're going to get in, you know, down the size.
Yeah,
So
I feel like that's a hack for life in general, and this doesn't even have to be fitness or bodybuilding or anything related. It's if you don't like where you are in life, there's a saying, you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you're in a small town and your mates are smoking, drinking, flat out, being dickheads, and you don't want to do that anymore, you want to be successful, you want to get in good shape, you want to make money, you need to find ways to put yourself in those groups of people. If you want to be in good shape, start hanging around with lads who go to the gym. You want to stop drinking, stop hanging around with lads who drink every weekend. If you want to be a bit more successful and make some money, you know, find out who's making money and what do they do. Have they got a side hustle? What job do they do? And if, you know, you want people that are just more encouraging in general, you have to make effort to put yourself in those circles and get yourself out of that, because you do become like the people you spend the most time with. So
and you end up being crystallized into that, and then you will eventually accept your lot in life that, and then that's okay. I mean, I know a lot of people who are happy,
but
which is all, and that is the end goal in everything that you're doing.
But the thing is, there's people watching this that are like me and you that want more from life than to just, you know.
I mean, I would love to be happy with fuck all, but unfortunately, I'm not. You know.
Well, some people are just happy with the nice, you know, house and the dog and the wife and 2 kids, whatever, in their local hometown.
The white picket fence.
The one like family holiday a year. But if you really do want more, you have to be okay with putting yourself out there, putting your life on social media, getting uncomfortable, you know, taking care of all those other little things, and being okay with people chatting shit about you. You have to be
which is guaranteed. You know, if you're just starting out with coaching, I remember my biggest insecurity at the time, or just starting out with any kind of self adventure that you're trying to do in business, everyone's going to think you're shite. He's not going to chance because you've got no business, you're making no money at that stage, and you're really just finding your feet because you have no idea what you're doing yet.
Yeah, well,
but
everybody was once a beginner.
Yeah,
Michael Jordan was once. He didn't fucking throw the ball in the net the first time on a perfect 3-pointer. He was once like terrible. Chris Bumstead was once lifting the first weight on the stack.
Yeah,
you know, so when I first got into, you know, trying to better myself, or my journey of self-improvement, let's say, I was an introvert. I was very uncomfortable putting myself out there on social media, on speaking on camera, on doing podcasts like this. But through repetition and consistently putting myself out there and making myself a little bit uncomfortable, I feel like I've slowly got a little bit better and easier with it. You know, it takes time, it takes repetition, like anything, but yeah, you have to, if you want that a little bit more, you have to be comfortable with putting yourself out there, you know?
I think that is us coming to a close. So anything that you want to cover off?
Any closing topics? I did have a couple questions that I sort of had jotted down. Yeah, well, let's chat about goals moving forward, because that's something I kind of touched on, but I didn't really touch on, is our physique goals.
Where do you see yourself in the next 12 months, considering you've done a show the last 6 months? Now, obviously, it doesn't seem like that's the path. Now, I don't see you looking any bigger. So, what's happening?
Small, man.
Smaller, yeah.
Tell me that.
Smaller
man.
since the last bulk.
Yeah, so, well, over the next 12 months, physique-wise, so I'm 10 weeks out from a photo shoot in Ibiza, so I'm getting lean for that. I always like getting lean in the summer, and I always like having a goal like that, you know, whether it's a photo shoot, a show. I just like the process of being locked in and being accountable to something. I hold myself to higher standards. So I've got that in 10 weeks. And then after that, I'm looking at a High Rocks in November. So this last couple of months, and even now, I'm getting more into just trying to be a little bit healthier, a little bit more athletic, a little bit fitter. So first get this photo shoot over me in 10 weeks, but after that, it's kind of full focus on this High Rocks in November. Getting downsizing a little bit. I'm about 103, 104 kilos at the minute. So I would really like to walk around and maintain a 95-ish kilo physique, but be able to jump up and run a 10K in the morning if I wanted to.
Be functional.
You know, yeah, if you text me and say, let's go for a 10K run, which You're never
It's
gonna,
never
you're
happening.
never happening. I want to be fit to do that. I want to be fit to do that. Then go in the gym the next day and bench, 140 kilos for a couple reps. I want to be able to do both somewhat. I'm not ever going to be one of these guys that just loses all his muscle mass, and starts fucking, just having a midlife crisis and
become one of those coaches who's
all
fat and ugly,
all his muscle disappears and he starts slating bodybuilders flat out and protein.
disillusioned with the industry.
Yeah, so that's never going to be me. I want to be both. I just want to be a specimen at both, at physical, strength training, and then also fitness, because I feel like that's what real fitness is being strong, but also being athletic somewhat too.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to do. Be a bit more functional, be a bit healthier, be a little bit faster, fitter. And it also gives me a new challenge. So I feel like you constantly need challenges, or I do, to keep me accountable and keep me locked in. So whether it's my bodybuilding show, whether it's a photo shoot prep, whether it's a high rocks competition and a whole new form of training to learn. And when I do that high rocks competition, that's a new form of programming and learning and training that I haven't really done. So that enhances my knowledge for my clients, so I can pass on to them little tips and things I've learned from that. And that's going to help me just be an all-round fitter, better athlete too. And I like the competitive aspect. That's something I'm really looking forward to, seeing how sort of good I can do time-wise too. That's
And down from there, then, is that you're big high rocks athlete?
We'll
reaching
see.
for world
We'll
records
see.
soon?
We'll see. I haven't actually done a high rock sim, to tell you the truth. It's just I have a habit of picking goals that I'm so far away with and just diving in.
I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah.
Seeing you do any kind of running.
Yeah.
Be very interesting.
Yeah, I'll be okay. I'm competitive, so I would never put myself in the position to show up where I'm going to do bad. So we'll do that. And then while we're doing it, maybe I fall in love with it and say I'm going to go pro. Or maybe we go, nah, I'm too small. Time to start blasting.
Time to get big again. Back to basics. I think I'm going to turn pro.
Yeah, but apart from that, the sole focus is literally just on that and business. I'm in the middle of trying to get a second coach and really grow my coaching team and progress that and get bigger on social media, provide more value, more content. I'm going really hard in the content over the summer for this next couple of months as well. So, starting a podcast and stuff like that, putting myself out there. I'm trying to get more out there on the socials, put myself out there, and try to build the brand, so to say.
Well,
The Ruairi
looking
Doyle
forward to
brand,
seeing it, man.
So.
We'll wrap up there. First episode of Big Ruairi's
Oh,
podcast.
what are we going to call it?
Big Ruairi's podcast.
Not Big Ruairi. That's no. We're not
Getting
calling
down
it
to business with Doyle. We'll leave that up to the viewers. You can put up a wee poll.
We'll put up a poll as to what we'll call this and see what people think. But